Edison to Manchester United, almost a done deal. That deal is expected to go through. Tonali to Manchester United, agreement very close. It looks like finally Manchester United actually getting deals done very quickly this summer if these deals both happen, and it looks like they're both going to happen. Fabrizio Romano update last night said that Edison, and this morning as well, said that Edison is not looking at any other football team. It's going to be Manchester United. It is going to be probably a price of about 42 million euros, which might be a little bit cheaper than was being put out in the media yesterday. So Edison's expected to go through. It's not going to be that expensive. It's going to be maybe in terms of pounds, it could be like sort of 36, 37 pound, a million pounds, then with some add-ons on top. So that deal will go through. It might be a cheaper deal than people were expecting, and it might mean that we can actually do a bit more business than people were expecting. Also, an update from Sully Talks as well this morning, and this is breaking as well, that Matheus Fernandes only looking at Manchester United at the moment. He's prioritising Manchester United as a club. If West Ham get relegated, I think we could be looking at Tonali, Matheus Fernandes, and Edison as our midfield purchases, and they could all be wrapped up before the World Cup. So we could be seeing, for the first time in ages, we could be seeing Manchester United actually moving quickly and moving rapidly. That would be if these deals get done. I know we're looking at this in terms of like potentially these deals getting done very quickly. Then this would mean that Man United have got three midfield players signed and in agreements in terms of getting these deals done quickly. And this gives us a lot of summer to look at left back, left wing, backup striker, other options that we're looking at as well. Things could be happening quite quickly. There could be this could be the biggest transfer window Man United's ever done. And if these stories are true, and they seem to be coming out from Italy to start with, then they're being backed up by other credible journalists. So I think Man United fans, you've got a bit more scope to be optimistic than we were maybe like a few months ago. All the stories that came out in January about potential players we're going to sign, it looks like we're going to be getting these deals done, but we're going to get these deals done in the summer. There is still a question mark over what's going to happen with Eddie Anderson, because one of the things I saw this morning is that Enzo Fernandez being heavily linked to a move to Manchester City. Manchester City and Man United both do like Anderson, but the price could be a problem. I'm not sure what happens with this. If Manchester United sign Tonali, they sign Fernandes, they sign Edison, and we see Manchester City signing Enzo, for example, are we going to see Eddie Anderson even move clubs? So there is question marks over that one. But what I'll do is I'll jump into the comments and see what people are thinking about these stories. So in terms of this one, and I think the story that's coming out at the moment is Manchester United trying to reach an agreement with Newcastle for Sandro Tonali. A lot of this is going to depend on the price. I think Newcastle were expected to be wanting about, I think from what I remember, about £80 million was supposed to be the price about, say, 2 weeks ago, was being talked about in terms of how much they want. I don't know whether that price is going to be changing too much. Can Man United get a better deal? I don't know. But how much would you pay for Tonali if this is the situation? He's going to be at least, I say as a minimum, he's going to be at least, what, £20 million cheaper than Eddie Anderson. If Anderson goes for over 100, you could be looking at £30 million cheaper. So there's not going to be a comparison in price of Anderson. And maybe this is the question as well. If Enzo Fernandez is available for a lot cheaper than Eddie Anderson, do Manchester United and Manchester City just not meet Nottingham Forest valuation? I don't think Forest are going to necessarily lower it. Like they certainly won't lower it below 100, but would they lower it from like the 120 that they're expected to want, which I think is going to price people out of that move. So we'll go through this one and see what people are thinking. Um, so if you just posted a few comments, I'll start with the comments now because the comments are moving quite quickly this morning. And Vril says if Tonali is a marquee signing, it's going to be a horrible window. Um, we'll see this one, 100 million. Apparently, we've cooled interest on Belieber, so I've not seen any stories about Belieber at all, to be honest. So, Cam's saying there's a rumor that Carrick wants Tonali. I think the links to Tonali go back beyond Michael Carrick. So this has been discussed a long time ago. So I'm not sure how much we're going to see Michael Carrick's influence on this transfer window. We saw yesterday that Middlesbrough will not get promoted. So is Hayden Hackney on the cards for a Premier League team to look at? I think he should be. Um, he's saying that Tonali, Fernandez, Edison is a good group. You would prefer Alex Scott in place of Edison. Edison might well be costing. a lot cheaper than Alex Scott. So Alex Scott was rumoured to be a £65 million price put on him by Bournemouth. If that's to be believed, Manchester United thought they could get Alex Scott maybe for about 50. Ederson's going to be high 30s in terms of pounds. So there's going to be a significant price reduction with Ederson. So it might be that that's one of the reasons. Ederson is not a done deal yet. It seems to be that if Man United want this deal, it's literally about getting agreement there as well. So things are very, very close. So no, I don't necessarily love Hackney. I think Hackney is one of these players where you think he just seems to be cost effective. Like if you look at Hayden Hackney is one of these players that Man United could sign, and he wouldn't be, yeah, he wouldn't be a waste of money. He'd be, I think, just go up in value. Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying the Championship is worth worth looking at. Okay, I say Tonali was the first person that came out of Carrick's mouth when he was asked who he wanted. Um, with this one, I think if you look at what Tonali does a lot of things quite well. The question would be, can Tonali step up and do something different at Manchester United? I think the way Newcastle play, they have got a few midfielders in there that do a lot of the work as well. So it might be that over the course of a match, maybe Tonali isn't going to be on the ball as much as someone like Bruno Guimaraes. So again, these numbers can change. The fact that he's been an effective player. Whenever we played Newcastle, people look at Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes, and they look at them as being one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. So no, it's definitely definitely I think a not a bad option. I say Manchester United not paying 300k a week. I'm not sure 300k a week is going to be how much it costs to get the deal done anyway. So we'll have to see. So Tonali, yeah, I don't know. I don't overhype Tonali. I think Tonali is going to be. I think he'd be an effective player, but I think Tonali is a good player. That when people are looking at this, so Mr. Deadpool says the opposite view. You're saying Tonali, a good football player, midfield engine and ball carrier, says Kate Cadet. So yeah, the question is going to be, I suppose, if these are going to be Man United's first two deals, and Matheus Fernandes as well. Like I said, Sully Talks is saying that Matheus Fernandes he's given priority to Manchester United. So at the moment, according to a lot of sources, the Ederson deal is looking like a done deal. So that's looking about as close as it's going to be. Fabrizio said Ederson not talking to any other club. And then the next media, if you remember yesterday and the day before, the sources coming out of Italy said Manchester United very close to agreements with Newcastle for Tonali, with Atalanta for Ederson. And what we're seeing now is these just are being backed up by other sources as well. So we're starting to see other more mainstream sources join the party and say the same sort of thing. So at this point in time, I'm expecting Ederson to be a done deal quite quickly. It looks like everything's pushing towards Tonali being another signing. That's why I've got a poll running in the comments saying, are these good signings? Like, if you're looking at Anderson, Anderson might not get resolved until I think after the World Cup. And if you think Manchester United should not do any deals and wait to the World Cup, then do everything possible to go for Anderson, then that is still quite risky. That is still kind of Frankie de Jong territory where we don't know if Anderson wants to join Manchester United. We do not know if United are prepared to meet the valuation that's put on the player by Nottingham Forest. And that makes it difficult. It makes it very difficult for Man United to actually do deals with these sort of clubs. So again, the Carlos Baleba situation seems to have disappeared as well and gone down to like no one's talking about Belieber anymore. A lot of people, myself included, a month ago, I thought Belieber was going to be still a likely deal because it just hadn't gone away. I don't see any other clubs linked to Belieber. It might be one of those situations where if Brighton wanted to cash in, maybe they should have done it already. So this is probably actually quite good news. If Man United don't even have any interest in Belieber, that's also a positive because you're looking at Man United just being a little bit, we're not sticking to one player. We've moved on and we're going to get different targets. Slices of SIB says Tonali, Fernandez, and Edison will be perfect in your opinion. So I mean, Fernandez on the cards as well. It looks probably likely. If you're looking at the likelihood, it looks like we're going to see West Ham relegated. I would like to see West Ham stay up, but I mean, financially for Man United, it probably makes more sense if we see West Ham get relegated. And there are stories this morning talking about Bowen, talking about Fernandez, and could Man United actually go a bit crazy in this window because there's so many players linked, and no one knows for sure how much Man United can actually spend. And say all on midfielders, all the recent links on midfielders who are box to box midfielders. Is this a change in tactics? So Tony, I think you might be onto something here as well. And myself, and if you remember, myself and Wiz Better, one of the co-hosts on the channel, were looking at potentially Man United might be changing things as well. So, no, if you look at some of the players we're looking at signing, that Man United might be evolving. We have seen some of these situations happen over the last kind of 18 months where maybe United are going to play a different way next season, or maybe they're also going to introduce a bit more flexibility. So instead of looking for like replacements for Casemiro, I think Man United are looking at how's the team going to play? Like we know that when Ineos came in, you look at the squad. I think most people looked at the squad and said, "Look, this squad's got loads of holes in it." The midfield was like the obvious one, and it wasn't enough midfield players at the club. And then you start looking around the team, thinking this team is limited. But I think Michael Carrick getting third position in the Premier League last season was probably the best you can get with a squad of players. Like, and remarkably, since January, we accrued the most points. But I think some of these deals you're looking at said Edison is 34. Yeah, it's going to be roughly that, something like 34 million. And say deal up to 43. You're saying he's only worth 25 million. The problem is that it's not necessarily about how much he's worth. The issue with this one's going to be that Atletico Madrid if he was 25 million, Atletico Madrid would have bought him weeks ago. So Atalanta just want to get a certain price, and it looks a bit like uh, Atletico Madrid were not prepared to meet it. Manchester United were prepared to meet it. So it might be that you consider if you think we spent a bit. If we spend like 10 million, I would say actually if Agate is worth 25 million, then Edison is worth 35 million because he's a better football player than Agate. And Agate going for 25 million means effectively Man United probably get Edison for less than 10 million. And there will be some add-ons, but they'll be based on other things as well. I'm saying he gave, yeah. No, I'm not saying it's a done deal. I'm not. He's given priority to Manchester United. This is Matheus Fernandes, so I think the Matheus Fernandes deal will be um, possibly one of the next ones as well. It does sound, yeah, exactly. Somebody about a month ago said it might be Stephanie. Somebody said that they could see Anderson staying at Forest. It could be. It could be the same situation with Carlos Baleba last summer, couldn't it? It could be the Anderson at Forest. I mean, if Anderson stays at Forest, then I think they've obviously got a very good football player. Would we see him move next season? That this is the deal. This is a summer transfer window where there's loads of midfield players changing hands. I'm not sure if we would see anything like that one. Morning, Vincent, and say final day of the Premier League season. I think it'd be the same team as Forest to play against Brighton. It might be. We might. I'm wondering whether we might rotate a little bit. I'm guessing like last day of the season. Sometimes you get sometimes you get a couple of changes. We'll have to see. Big up to you, Matty, in the chat. So, no, we haven't been mentioned with Belieber for a long time, have we, D Hex? So, Williams has been talked about a bit, actually. There's a lot of players on the periphery that are being mentioned, and there's a lot of people that, let's be honest, there's a lot of players linked to Manchester United, so it's kind of difficult to keep track of them. The midfield players linked, it seems to be that we've kind of narrowed the window down a bit. So I've not seen anything about Wharton for ages. I've not seen anything about Belieber for ages. I think Alex Scott, Tyler Adams have been stories that haven't been talked about as much recently. I think the last couple of days, or last 2 or 3 days, it's been all Edison and Tonali and Matheus Fernandes. Those have been the three players that have been consistently talked about, and it looks like everything's kind of lining up. It does look like West Ham will get relegated, and maybe that will end up being a slightly cheaper deal if Man United want to get that deal done. And say with all the hype, Anderson and say Anderson and Tuchel want it sorted before the World Cup. I think maybe we're going to find out. One of the things I did read was we're going to find out quite quickly whether we're going to see Anderson or Tchouameni actually available. So Manchester United did say yesterday that they look at, I think, Tchouameni and Anderson are still deals they would like to do if they're available, but they might find out very soon, maybe in the next couple of weeks before the World Cup starts, if these players are actually available. So I think if they're not available, we're not going to see anything at all. And maybe what we're seeing here is that if Anderson's not available and too many's not available, maybe the midfield signings are going to be Tonali, Edison, and Matheus Fernandes. And maybe if one of those other players were available, possibly they replace one of these players. Maybe they replace Tonali. So it could be that. So I think getting agreement's one thing, getting a deal done is another thing. We'll have to see. Cheers, Jude. Appreciate that one. Welcome, Steffi, in the chat as well. Morning to my Nottingham Forest friend Dan. Big up to you, Dan, saying without sounding biased on Anderson. No, it's always good to get your views. You say you always thought out of the two it would have been Tonali, mainly because of how much money both clubs want for them. So if you look at the kind of estimated price, if Nottingham Forest want 125 for Anderson, which has been put out there, and people do think regarding that one, it is a lot of money. And if Tonali is available for 80, which again is what people are thinking, then you'd have to look at it and say, then £45 million difference. If that was the price difference, that's a lot of money. But um, no, Dan, you can be biased. You're a Nottingham Forest fan. That's all good, but it might come down somewhat to price, possibly. City's 115 charges incoming. If true, this will have an impact. It could. It, I hope it is going to happen. I hope we are going to be seeing something happen quite soon. No, I think it's going to be difficult to see what's going to be happening. Vril says you feel that Tonali will be another Mason Mount. No, I think Tonali is definitely a lot better football player than Mason Mount, or certainly he's going to not have the injury issues. He's going to be more effective. But again, this is one of those questions, isn't it? That people are going to be, what's the word? People are going to have to see how these fit into the team. So whatever Tonali did at Newcastle, then it doesn't mean he's necessarily going to be doing exactly the same thing at Manchester United. Manchester United are looking at player profiles as well. I mean, Dorgu has played mainly as a left winger at Manchester United. He did play a bit on the left at Lecce, but he was mainly a defensive player for Lecce. So again, it's about Man United looking at what these players are capable of in their team. We're not guaranteed to play the same formation as Newcastle were playing either, so things could change a little bit. We might not even be playing the kind of same formation or same style as we did this season. So one of the things that people were talking about is how does Michael Carrick want to set up the team, and a lot of it's going to be, how are we going to be looking at changing the way we play, because obviously Michael Carrick had no player signed for him when he was head coach last season. He came in, had to work with what he's got. So maybe Michael Carrick does have a bit of influence in some of these players. But the fact he wanted Tonali, then maybe they're looking at Tonali saying that I know the stats for Tonali were, they were kind of what's the word? They were decent in a lot of areas, but they weren't exceptional in some areas. So it could be that maybe Man United what they want to see is that maybe Tonali will bring that to the club. Kate's saying that the reason why we see stories like Tonali rather than Anderson is because maybe Anderson hadn't shown much interest, and so maybe Tonali wants to join Man United. So it could be somewhere like that as well. So no, I don't compare Tonali to Mason Mount. Mason Mount is technically good, physically I think struggles a little bit. That I think Tonali brings a physical presence in midfield, which maybe we do need as well. I think Edison will bring something that maybe fans aren't expecting either, so that might be a signing that works out a bit better. I would say that some of these signings, that when you look at them individually, that people can question and say, like, can we sign better football players? Okay, there's better football players out there, and you could buy like for like probably a better quality individual football player. United are looking at trying to build their midfield. I think most people could be looking at these and think there's probably going to be that it's not just stats. You also got to look at how these players fit into the team as well. If there's a question of like too many or Tonali, I think most people will go for too many. That basically too many's been probably like the world class midfielder at Real Madrid for a while. I think he would be exceptional signing, but you have to be realistic and say that too many is probably not leaving clubs. He's probably going to stay at Real Madrid. We're probably going to see Anderson stay at Nottingham Forest, and with those things happening, then you've got to look at who's actually available in the transfer market and be realistic. And United have got essentially a few options, a few players they can sign, and What are you talking about? The graph? No, the stats are one thing. If you look at the stats, then Koei Mainu doesn't excel on a lot of things on the stats either. So if you're looking at the stats, the stats aren't everything, but they do tell you some of the things as well. Mason Mount's our second best player. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think Man United are interested in yeah the hair of players, to be honest. So to go into like some more positive ones, Mr. Kate Cadet says that you think that Tonali is for you is your top pick. So say if Forest won 125 million, then Newcastle won 100 million, and say now maybe if you put it if those are the actual prices, then it's obviously a question for Man United. Do you pay the extra £25 million if you think Anderson is a better football player than Tonali? And if those are the circumstances, then I would say for me, if those are the options, if you think if one football player is your best option and is a little bit more expensive, because it's only like 25% more, I would probably pay that amount of money. I would pay that much to get the play to get it done. But um, it depends. If Anderson's shown zero indication that he wants to come to Manchester United, and maybe he wants to stay at Nottingham Forest, maybe that's a factor as well. So, I think with some of these, like it'd be nice to get Anderson. I think Anderson would be the top target, but if Anderson's not interested, then it's not gonna happen, is it? So, big up to you, Vicky. Hope you're good. So, people, I'll just say I can't read out every comment. Would I take Hjulmand? Would having an Arsenal tattoo be a put off? I think any Arsenal tattoo is um, obviously not a good thing. No, I think Hjulmand looks a bit lightweight, to be honest. I think that the Premier League needs stronger players than Hjulmand. So I think no, would I take Hjulmand? I don't see anything in Hjulmand that makes me think he'd be a good player in the Premier League. So no, I would be if Hjulmand was announced as our signing, I think it might be a very much like a Donny van der Beek signing. Like, is he going to be that effective? Is he going to work? I don't know. He could be quite expensive as well. So no, I don't think like looking at Hjulmand, I don't think I see something there which makes me think get him in. He's going to be a good signing. So no, I think Hjulmand. Apparently, the release clause was about I don't know, it might be like high 70s, 80 million. So no, I think Kilman would be a player that, let's be honest, he's in the Portuguese league. How's he going to be, stepping into the Premier League? If I was Kilman, I'd avoid the Premier League. I don't think he's going to be effective in that one. So, yeah, no, not for me. But we'll see. You don't think he's ever going to leave? Uh, if a club wants to sell their captain and lets the captain leave, then for me, is he the best player to sign? Like, I don't think Hillman's going to be physically the best player to sign. That it's yeah, tricky. Maybe I should do a poll and say for like let's focus on Tonali. We did a poll on Edison yesterday, and what do people think is going to be the actual price? Like so I put a poll in saying are Edison and Tonali good deals? And yes, say 80%. So people think these are good deals early on. Let's just like specifically talk about Tonali though, because I think Edison looks like it's a done deal. It looks like it really is going to happen for about 42 million euros looks like the price. So the very initial stories that came out of Italy about what 38 million pounds they were saying for Edison, it looks like it's going to be true. So I can't even guess how much Tonali is going to cost. I was thinking it might be about 80 million. So according to sources a couple of weeks ago, Newcastle rumored to want 100. I don't think he's going to cost that much, but um, let's put this one. So I don't know how much it's going to cost, but is Tonali a good signing for United? Is the question. And you can vote yes or no. So is Tonali a good signing for Manchester United? Then there are a lot of midfield players available, but also you have to probably assume that we don't. If Anderson stays at Man City, if Anderson stays at Nottingham Forest, which could be on the cards, and I have said actually myself, I have said the same as Genghis. I have said if I was going to prioritise getting any player from Newcastle, I'd probably look at Hall, and that's mainly because it depends how much Hall costs, but that's mainly because you've got other options in midfield as well. So you're going to say as a price estimation for Tonali, it could be that maybe that could be a price. The thing at the moment is we haven't seen any deals happen, so I can't really say whether at the moment in time are we going to see. We saw last summer that transfers went like actually they increased the load, didn't they? So we could be seeing situations in the transfer window where suddenly prices go crazy, and we see very expensive signings. I think if we see Anderson moving after the World Cup, if anything, that feels just like a tactic to push the price up. So I guess with Anderson, he's going to have this is going to be his one big move, isn't it? So maybe also with his agents, the higher the transfer fee for Anderson, the more his agents benefit, maybe the more he benefits, and the more Nottingham Forest benefits. So it's not really in Man United's or Manchester City's benefit to try and do a deal after the World Cup when there might be limited options on the market. So I think that's why it'd be interesting if Man City go right. We're going to go for Enzo. Manchester United, if we're going to go for Tonali instead, I would say no. I've said hundreds of times I think Anderson's the best player we should go for, but I can't force Manchester United to sign him, unfortunately. But Kate's saying that for a price you're thinking 80 million plus 10 add-ons, it might be that most of our deals we do now will include some add-ons. I think this is something we saw last year, and it's a way of maybe making the price a bit more expensive. I say Tonali, no, Tonali's not a goal scorer, is he? Say Casemiro, Casemiro's definitely yeah, Casemiro's definitely got a lot of goals last season playing further forward. But maybe the difference is going to be are Manchester United like looking to try and play a bit of a different way as well? Because if you look at last season, that we did score a lot of goals, but defensively we let in a lot. So if you look at the league table, the difference between Manchester United and Arsenal was not goals scored; it's how many goals we conceded. Are we looking to get maybe some more mobile players in? Like that's why I thought we were going to get Anderson, who's very good defensively, and that's why Too Many looks like a great signing because Too Many is an elite ball winner, elite duel winner. Even like Carlos Baleba actually is a lot better ball winner than Tonali. Tonali is more one of these players that does have like quite good stats on a lot of things, but he doesn't really look excellent in a few. This is definitely one of these players that you'd have to look at the you'd have to look at the eye test as well and just ignore some of the stats. And so, Kate saying you can't believe that Tonali hating it. Well, there's a poll in the comments. There's a poll in the comments to gain to get people's opinions. So at the moment, 74% of people are voting it's not a good deal. So yeah, people are generally what's the word? Not enthusiastic about this one. There was a surprisingly large amount of optimism about Edison about a day ago, where I think three-quarters of people voted that Edison was a good signing. But this is one where even like Carlos Baleba, a lot of Man United fans were not keen on Carlos Baleba. Andy says you would pay up to 50 million more for Anderson than Tonali. So you've said you'd only pay 100 for Anderson, but I think he's that much better than Tonali. So 50 million, 50 million is a lot, but no, this is one where again, if we did sign these players, then say I know you need to be impartial, but the toxic positive to me says no to Tonali. Plus, I think with this one that based on what Man United have done recently and based on like recent transfers, Lamans was a good signing, and a lot of fans wanted to get Emi Martinez. Like a lot of fans on other bigger channels wanted to get Emi Martinez. A lot of fans wanted to get Ollie Watkins instead of Sesko. And at the moment, yeah, a lot of fans are being quite negative about Tonali and Baliba. And you have to imagine that if Man United are looking at signing these players, then then and you look at it and say the fact that Tonali does one job at Newcastle United in a different team, in maybe a different formation. I don't think it means that he's going to be exactly the same as what happens at United. So all I'm saying is that if Man United have made good decisions recently regarding Cunha, Sesko, Lamans, Dorgu, Aiden Heaven, so the last 18 months I think has been quite a few good signings. I don't think we've made a poor signing in the last 18 months. And okay, that's not a very long amount of time, but it is representative of Ineos making decisions rather than the people making decisions in the past. So in terms of like decision making, if we got Tonali and we've got Edison. I'm just saying I'd be open-minded to see how, I mean, I'd probably rather go for Anderson. Like, Anderson and Tchouaméni would be my top signings, and of course, they're elite players. But if those players that don't even leave clubs, so maybe the question should be, what happens if Anderson stays at Nottingham Forest, Tchouaméni stays at Real Madrid, Manchester United still want to sign three midfielders? You've got to look at what options are on the table. It seems that for whatever reason is Manchester United have prioritised Tonali. Like he's been there, hasn't he? Like second or third on the list, and maybe this is representative of us thinking that we can't get Anderson. So I think moving for Tonali. If we did get an agreement for Tonali, I think this is just essentially saying we don't think we can get Anderson, and maybe Man City don't get Anderson either. Maybe he stays at Nottingham Forest. So I'm saying you didn't. No, I'm just saying as a general thing. Like the majority of people wanted to get Ollie Watkins, and the majority of people, I think, because we had like two crap goalkeepers, a lot of people wanted to get Emi Martinez as well. Martinez has definitely got an attitude. I don't know if it's a good one, to be honest. Um, no, Emi Martinez did all right. Um, Interestingly, you're saying Belieber is a lot better. Whenever I've done a stream on Belieber, people are actually quite negative about Belieber as well. So I don't think at the moment, if I talk about one player, people are going to be disappointed with other ones. So assuming this one as well, like if Anderson and Tonali are off the table, you'd go for Fernandes, Scott, and Edison. So if effectively, Man United are actually going to get they're probably going to get Fernandes, they're probably going to get Edison, and Alex Scott is someone that maybe they feel that whatever they look at, maybe they feel that Tonali is a better fit. Again, it depends what Man United want and how they're going to play. And also, if we're signing three players, some of these are going to be rotation options anyway. I got the feeling that Edison looks like he's kind of similar to what Anderson's doing in the Premier League, although he's actually just doing it. Um, Lucky Singh saying Ollie Watkins is still better than Benjamin Sesko. I think you're. No, I think this season Ollie Watkins is reliable, isn't he? But I think United looking long term. So I think United looking at where's Sesko going to be in a couple of years' time over Ollie Watkins? And I think with Lamans and Emi Martinez as well, if Man United bought Ollie Watkins, he'd probably cost the same amount of money as Sesko. He'd probably be on a higher salary, and he probably wouldn't be able to be at the club for as long. So, I think Ollie Watkins he was quality in the final against crap opposition, though. But he's a good football player. It's just not necessarily the best option long term. So, Belieber's better than Tonali, says Randy. Suddenly, there's a lot of suddenly there's a lot of people wanting to Belieber, but no, a week ago, no one was interested in Belieber as well. Morning to you, Sanjay. No, the Belieber, to be honest, actually with Belieber, no one knows how much Belieber would cost either as well. Um, so Ollie Ghostkins, Ollie Watkins, I think if you look at the Premier League, I think Watkins and Sesko have had pretty similar seasons in terms of goal scoring as well. G Wolf is saying that you don't want Tonali, you definitely want Anderson or Hackney. You're saying Hackney's better than Tonali. I think that's a big shout. I think Hackney's obviously I think he was championship player. I think Hackney was championship player of the season at Middlesbrough. But Middlesbrough not coming, not getting promoted. So maybe we're going to see, we could see Hackney move clubs, couldn't we, for a sensible amount of money. And no, I would say this. I wouldn't mind getting Hackney in instead of someone like Edison. That I wouldn't mind that. I think Anderson plus Hackney plus Matheus Fernandes would have been a decent transfer window again because I'm looking at Hackney a lot regarding price as well, thinking how much it would cost. But I think that you have to admit to you of like it's probably Anderson's looking like it's off the table. So, and I think the Hackney stuff like Yarley said, I don't think the Hackney stuff has been talked about for a long time as well. So again, that I'm not sure what the reason was it being ruled out. I think he was like injured as well. So if Man United were going to go for Hackney, they would have got surely they would have gone for him in January, and it looks a bit like the same argument for João Gomez. It feels like Man United are just not interested in him too much. Big up to you, Neil, in the chat. Good to see you, Neil. Good morning to you. There will be a lot of content on the channel today for people that are interested. There will be a watch along starting quite a lot prior to the match as well. G Wolf and Helgi will be running the watch along, and myself and G will be doing the calling show about 6 p.m. This evening. So there's going to be a lot of streams to get involved with in the channel. If you want to be part of the calling show as well, we will post a link in the comments for people to come on and have their say in what will be the last Manchester United match this season. But we might be we'll be doing a lot of content for the World Cup as well, with multiple kind of people covering most of the matches. Morning five, um, the 5 star, the fatal 5 star, have said, I think Tonali as a player would be a good signing. Issue got with him is off the field antics, and this might be something that Man United have to seriously. This is something again that I thought a week ago. I thought this might put Manchester United off Tonali, but again, you'd kind of have to hope that they've done their due diligence. And with this one, I mean, Tonali's had a lot of issues betting. If it did happen again, it's a lengthy ban, isn't it? So yeah, this is a this kind of, you know how you have a look at some players and think injury issues as well. This is kind of a different issue, isn't it? So hopefully that Man United and Tonali, hopefully that doesn't happen, because that would be obviously a complete disaster if Man United signed a player and then they weren't available for that. Um, it did look a bit like Forest were lining up Hackney as an Anderson replacement to Stephanie. I think clearly Anderson's not ready in comparison to, yeah, clearly Anderson's um, Hackney is not the same level as Anderson, but yeah. So no, one of the things I think why Man United are looking at Tonali as well is that is definitely a move towards trying to get Premier League football players into the club. So if they've given up on Anderson, maybe they see Tonali as the next best option. So again, not necessarily my opinion, but I'll be open-minded. I think last season it was very easy to get behind Cunha and Mbeumo because they both scored a lot of goals in the Premier League. And the Benjamin Sesko signing, you kind of give Abel credit for this one. I think with Tonali, the only thing with Tonali maybe not so positive is I don't think he's had a fantastic season at Newcastle. Newcastle have largely struggled for most of the Premier League season, and this is why I think you can look at it and say that when people look at the data, and lots of other people have been looking at the data, the data's there for people to look at if they want to, then Tonali doesn't look as good defensively as a lot of options as well. So in terms of what he does, like he can, yeah, he's probably, you could say he's a reliable, good quality Premier League midfielder, but it doesn't feel like he's exceptional. That's probably the where I'd put it. Yeah, we don't want to see Arsenal lifting anything Vincent, do we? But it's very disappointing. No, have a bottomless brunch at Brighton does sound good, so it makes you enjoy that one. So what we might see is this is the last day of the Premier League season. So like I was saying, we'll do a calling show to discuss the game, but we might see as soon as these games finish, we might suddenly get a bit of clarity. And also the Matheus Fernandes situation, the relegation situation with West Ham, that will all be a known factor as well. There's still actually links between Man United and Van der Ven, though the price seems to be going down by the day. But Forest say are safe. We know that they're going to try and keep Anderson if they can. And actually, Nottingham Forest fans I know do feel that Murillo has signed a new contract extension. Anderson is only available for crazy money, it seems. But I think Nottingham Forest, I don't think Nottingham Forest want to do what Brighton are doing. I think they actually want to keep Anderson and keep Murillo and keep some of the better players at their team and try and cement themselves as, not a team that's going to fight relegation next season. Try and build and make sure their team is a lot more successful. So maybe we're not in the Forest. They're actually showing a bit more ambition and want to keep players at the club. And maybe they are generally only going to let Anderson go for something crazy like 125, because that would give them enough money to, substantially rebuild the team, because Anderson would be a big loss to them. So as Tony said, we will get a lot more clarity after today's games, because the relegation picture will be known. I think there'll be that at the moment there's been a little bit of respect between teams not wanting to, yeah, not wanting to put offers in on players that are fighting in a relegation battle, and maybe we might see something happen quite quickly as well. Randy says, I still think we're getting Belieber. So maybe another question should be like, based on like the sources. Let me just quickly go through the sources that we had and say the most recent one. This is from this morning, where it's Edison transferred to Manchester United is expected to be completed for 42 million euros. This deal is expected to go through. That's from a couple of different sources. I think the most recent one from Fabrizio was saying that Edison will not talk to any other clubs now. So it's pretty much about agreeing a deal with United. So it looks like Edison's going to be our first signing, and fans are kind of like 50-50 on that one. I think the several different sources in Italy saying the same thing that they said with Edison. They're saying exactly the same thing. So Tonali feels like Edison, but one day later. So all the stories seem to be pretty much the same. The only difference is I don't see any other club being linked to Tonali. So Edison had Atletico Madrid. I don't see any other club linked to Tonali. And it seems that Manchester United are close to reaching an agreement with Newcastle for Tonali. I don't know how much that's going to cost. I might have to message a couple of Newcastle fans I know today and find out, but maybe we'll find out. But Newcastle United have said that any player that wants to leave the club is allowed to go. So if Tonali wants to go, they'll negotiate a deal. I don't think it'll be a crazy deal as well. And Alex saying that the third best Newcastle midfielder. Um, yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Um, so Edison, I don't know. Actually, he'd agreed terms. He'd agreed terms with Atletico Madrid. So I think he would have gone to Atletico Madrid, but Atletico Madrid wouldn't pay as much as they wanted. So yeah, no, I think what's it's probably going to get. I'd imagine that the salary wise would be kind of similar. So I think Atletico Madrid have probably just moved on then based on this one. Belieber has a higher ceiling than Tonali. What if Belieber has a stormer against us? Maybe that's something to look out for in the watch along this afternoon. That maybe Belieber has got a point to prove as well. He really wants to join Manchester United. You'd imagine that he's going to be or definitely motivated in this match. But maybe with this one as well, you could see that Cam saying that Belieber was one of Cameroon's standout players in the most recent African Cup of Nations and helped his team get to the quarterfinals. No, I think I've said this in the past as well, but Belieber got a lot of negativity on the channel. I mean, we're not talking about Belieber too much today, but if we were talking about Belieber, there would be lots of comments saying they think that he's not worth the money. And a lot of people say that Belieber is only worth like say £50 million. I think he would cost more than that. But no, maybe this is one of those games where that for Bleibers, like remember Anderson against Man United, and we said, "What's Anderson going to do?" He got 2 assists, even though Man United controlled the game and would should have scored a few more goals. Carlos Belieber will definitely a player I'm looking to watch this afternoon and see how he gets on against United. You'd imagine that United go into this match. I think Brighton might still have European ambitions as well. I'm guessing we might put out. Maybe we're going to put out a stronger team than we do normally towards the end of the season because it seems to be we're just trying to make sure we get as many wins as possible, but also maybe it's an indication that Michael Carrick wants to just make sure standards don't slip and try and win every game if we can, even though the game doesn't really affect our league position. So it's a more important game for Brighton, but I think how Believer plays. Don't forget, Casemiro will not play today either, so we will have a different team out. Maybe we're going to start with Agate and Mainu. So maybe that our midfield's not going to be as good. So potentially, we Belieber could have a lot of joy then. I think defensively, Agate would be fine, but again, I think we do give the ball away more than him and that. So now maybe we're not going to have our strongest midfield out on the pitch today because Casemiro is not going to feature, and maybe that will make Belieber look good as well. So it's up to Belieber, isn't it? And I don't think he could do any more. That's like one game. I think Man United would have already decided what they're looking at as well. and say, yeah, Wilcox will be looking at data all the data we look at and all the things we look at regarding Tonali. Manchester United will be well aware of all these factors as well. So it will be that we do look at this, and it might be that with Tonali, I think Alex Scott would be a cheaper option for sure. I think Matheus Fernandes might be one of the better options as well. And Randy's saying Tonali's reached his ceiling. Who thinks that like if you had to make a decision between Belieber or Tonali, which player would you sign? Is Carrick going to go Agate in the middle or Mason Mount? If I was Michael Carrick, I would probably go for Mason Mount. I think Agate might have checked out a bit this season. It looks a little bit like with Agate. I I don't think I think he knows he's going to leave the club. So it's one where if you're going to put a guy in midfield, that he looks like he knows he's going to leave the football club. With Mason Mount, I don't know with Mason Mount. I think there's a good chance he might get loaned out, but yeah, it's a tricky one. You think Casemiro will play? I thought that let's see. With this one, Vincent, that's an interesting one. But I thought that we were told that Casemiro was not playing. So um, I thought that that was going to be not happening. Cheers, Vicky. Mo Salah not playing against Man United again is a nice positive to look forward to. Luke Shaw, yeah, yeah. I think Casemiro is confirmed that he's not playing. To be honest, I don't know where Casemiro is, but I think Casemiro is now. I think he's working on where he's going to play. So Casemiro's in America. Okay, no, they said Casemiro was not going to feature. This is something that was. Yeah, they confirmed that he'd already played his last game, so he won't play. I think apart from that, I think they might put out a strongish team. Maybe we will see Mason Mount in midfield, and we'll see how that goes. But no, I think Casemiro, whether he's in the USA or not, I think he's going to play for Miami next season. So he's not going to be part of this game. Fox says Casemiro's in Miami. So yes, I think most people think Casemiro is in the USA, and yeah, that's the one thing that Man United did tell us. They did put out some information, didn't they? Was it Michael Carrick confirming that? It was something about a week ago saying that it's going to be yeah, it's going to be boiling here. I think it was like 30 here yesterday, like way too hot. Alongside Messi and Suarez. Oh, that's Bitey Suarez, isn't it? From ex-Liverpool. I'm not even sure. Do you think Casemiro? I don't think Casemiro will be watching Man United Brighton if he's in Miami. I think he'll be doing other things there. Let's be honest. So, has anyone got any points they want to raise regarding this one? Is it worth comparing Belieber versus Tonali? As like so, at the moment, I'm going to say that this is kind of 50-50. That Jim says he can't believe all the hate for Tonali. Is Tonali a good signing for Man United? At the moment, I closed the poll. It's like it's 46-54. It's close to 50-50. So this is pretty much about as divisive as it could be. Um, so I'm gonna just test the water with this one. Like Tonali, I mean, how was Tonali when they beat us? I mean, Newcastle did beat us this season, and they did control midfield. So Tonali, Belieber as a better signing because I thought a lot of people were a bit, I don't know, not that impressed with Belieber this season. I've been trying to say that I think that some of these signings that it might actually work out better than you're expecting as well. No one was very excited when we signed Aiden Heaven. No one was really excited when we signed Dorgu. I think Tonali is going to be so Dangle back in the squad. I don't know. I don't know about Dangle. I don't know. But no, this is going to be one where if you got some positives about either of these players, get them in. Maybe focus on the positives you think regarding the negatives. So if you think Tonali's a better signing, let me know why you think he's a better signing. Because I think I can see a lot of people are skeptical, but There should be neither option. Well, to be honest, I think you have to be realistic. Man United are going to go for Premier League football players, and maybe Matheus Fernandes is quite young. I think one of the things that if you get Edison, we've got some experience there, haven't we? So no, Cake, give me some positives like for Tonali. If you rate Tonali, give me some positives as well. Yanni says, "What is going on here?" Yeah, Yanni, same thing. If you want to go for some players, give me some positives. Alex is saying that Edison is better than Tonali. I'm, I'll say this. I'm a bit surprised that we're seeing a lot of negativity about Tonali, and he's not even kicked the ball for Man United. So, again, most people would acknowledge that Newcastle have been, a good team over the last, say, couple of years. Then going to playing in the Champions League definitely affected them. But we're talking about Tonali who's playing in a team that almost beat Paris Saint-Germain, and Newcastle controlled that game as well. So, I mean, I think taking individual stats out of it, Tonali's been part of a Newcastle team that always causes problems, and they always control midfield when we play them. So maybe with this one is like if you look at Kobe Mainoo play, and then you look at Mainu's stats do not look that impressive a lot of times when you look at Kobe Mainu's. But when you watch Kobe Mainu play, he's a very good football player, and he's very good at a lot of things. He doesn't give the ball away back. He's comfortable in possession when we're in defence. He alleviates pressure. He makes simple passes, sensible passes. He doesn't make stupid decisions a lot of the time. And I don't think these kind of things get borne out in the stats as well. So I think the stats give you some information, but you've got to look at you've got to watch a lot of the games as well and see these players perform. Tony says it depends how we want to play. I think Tony's right, and I think the problem is that we can watch Man United play this season, and we can like remove Casemiro from the football team, and we can go right. Where does Tonali fit in? Where does Belieber fit in? Where does Too Many fit in? But we don't know how Man United want to play next season, and we don't know what the medium term strategy is. We don't know what formation Man United are going to use next season, the year after. How does Michael Carrick want to play? Because this season, the job is pretty much look at the players in the squad, get the best possible performance out of that team, and that was what Michael Carrick did. Next season, it's going to be very different. Next season is going to be how do you want the team to play? Which midfield players should we sign? Because at the moment we've almost got a blank slate. We've almost got a situation where we've got Koe Mainu and we can build around Koe Mainu in any way we feel fit. So we could go for someone like Anderson, who I think is a great fit. We could go for someone that's defensively elite, like Tchouaméni. We could go for someone that's going to be now, maybe like they have been good. Belieber's been very good defensively this season, but we do know that if you take the kind of handbrake off, Belieber can like charge forward. He is a good runner with the ball, and so he has got this skill set that has maybe been underutilized by Brighton this season. So I think what Belieber's capable of, you don't necessarily see this one as well. And when Casemiro wasn't his partner, Mainly was not good. I don't know. I don't think we can say that because this season Kerry Mainoo did not start a single game until Michael Carrick was in charge. So there's no evidence to say how Mainoo would have started games with Agate. So I mean, you can make the point that whenever Agate came on the pitch, it's more on Agate than Mainoo. We didn't have a good midfielder apart from this one. So if when you're looking at Mainoo and building around Mainoo, Mainoo did not start a single game until Michael Carrick took over. And then when Michael Carrick took over, Mainoo and Casemiro were essentially our top midfield. And there was not much option apart from that. So I don't know. We'd have to see Grimsby. I didn't watch Grimsby because I was abroad, but I think Grimsby came down to goalkeeping errors, didn't it? That we should have won that game. So you're not sure Dangor's good enough. Apparently Thwaites is supposed to be that's a good option for next season. So Cake says you like him, good engine, good stamina, range of passing, ball carrier, third man runs. What's not to like says Cake. So Cake's very enthusiastic. One of the things that I would say is the way that Michael Carrick likes to play is if you watch Man United play, they say you might have noticed the difference between Carrick and Fletcher, Carrick and Amrin. One of the differences is going to be the speed at which Manchester United move the ball through midfield is levels better under Michael Carrick. So, as Daz says, rightly so, Man United will be playing faster, and when you're playing faster, it is going to be not suitable for players like Tonali, but someone like Kobe Mainoo who can make decisions quickly, who can pass the ball forward quickly. It's about speed, isn't it? And I think the difference between looking at the stats and looking at the games is going to be how quickly can Man United counter attack? How quickly can Man United move from defence through midfield to attack as well? And that's something that's probably the best attribute of our team at the moment. And that's something that Bruno Fernandes is perfect for. And it's something that Cunha, Dorgu, and probably uh, maybe Kobe Mainoo as well as an example that are able to move the ball very quickly. If you look at the game against Forest, when we won the ball back, we were literally taking a shot on goal a few seconds later a lot of the time, and it was like a couple of quick passes, moved the ball very fast, and that was going to be if Xerxes was Van Nistelrooy, we win that game 6-2. But this is something that United are looking at as well. So again, like if Tonali's making a certain number of passes, or if you're looking at other players, it's going to be a little bit, a, a little bit influencing on what we're going to be looking at as well. And we do need Beliebers as I think Beliebers is an effective player as well. So I think Belieber would be an effective player. I think to be honest, if I was going to pick three midfield players, if I got Anderson, I don't mind getting Belieber. I think Belieber is someone that could do the defensive work. I'm kind of assuming that too many is not available, but if we got Anderson, I'd be happy with Belieber and Mathis Fernandez maybe as three signings. I don't mind other options as well, but I get the thing United are going to be having to go Premier League as much as possible if they can do this one. Where are you going on a bus, Cake? I say, believe has been like proper CDM this season, but if Manchester United sign Belieber though, there's no guarantee Man United want to have a CDM in the sort of matchday squad anyway. We might not necessarily want to play that way. We might want to play with more. Maybe Man United are actually looking at getting more box to box midfielders in, and maybe it's going to be that someone like Anderson or someone like Anderson would be a good fit for that. And maybe Belieber's going to just play further forward than he has been at Brighton this season. And maybe Tonali would be, maybe they are looking at people like Tonali because of what he can do, a bit offensive and a bit defensive. If you look at Ederson, I think Ederson is probably the perfect example of a box to box midfielder as well. If you watched Atalanta at all over the last season, you'll have been aware that when they won the Europa League, I'm pretty sure Edison got three assists in that final. Lookman got the credit because he scored the goals, but Edison was a massive factor in that team winning trophies. And he's someone that can do defensive work, can get up and down the pitch, but also good in transition, good on the ball, decent amount of assists, passing wise is good as well. So I think Edison's going to be a bit better than people think. But the idea is going to be how do Manchester United play next season? And I think it's going to be quicker, certainly a lot quicker than it was at the start of the season. And I think that's what I think they're looking for more energetic players in the team. Maybe they're looking at 4-3-3, and I think they could be changing things that way. So I think things could be happening. Um, and Anderson might stay at Forest. That's the thing. That I know a lot of people think he's going to go to City. He might stay at Nottingham Forest. That's going to be where it's going to be pretty difficult. So at the moment, the poll is running at 64% for Belieber. So loads of people suddenly want Belieber, which is an interesting one. Um, I don't know what to say really. I thought Belieber was something that when we talked about Belieber a week ago, people were quite negative about the signing, and now we're talking about Tonali. People are quite negative. So I don't know. It seems that whenever we talk about a football player that's going to be close to joining Manchester United, people are not that impressed. Is this just because are people just only wanting to get too many or Anderson, and everyone else feels like a drop off? Because I think I've said the same thing that those are the two best signings, but if they're not available, then they're not available. Now we can watch Believer this afternoon, can't we? We can draw our conclusions. But I will have to head off in a second. If anyone's able to like post any questions they want to, if there's anything that you want to raise in the chat that you haven't done so already before we close the stream, there will be a watch long starting quite early today, maybe about 2 p.m. with G Wolf and Helgi talking about this, talking about the upcoming match. There's a lot to decide in the Premier League. European football, there's a few teams contesting European football still. There is still a chance that Liverpool could drop places, but I think that they're still going to be okay. And West Ham get relegated is on the cards, and then that will probably be. We're probably going to see loads of stories about Matheus Fernandes tomorrow if West Ham get relegated. That's kind of my prediction. That I think at the moment it'd be quite nice to see Spurs get relegated, but it looks a bit like West Ham are going to go down. And again, don't forget, it is only the 24th of May. This is very early for Manchester United in terms of doing some sort of transfer deals. So there is still a lot of there's still a lot of work to do on most of these deals. But if Man United do get terms agreed, one thing it does do is it does give us leverage. If we get terms agreed for Tonali, and it looks like we've got a price that we can effectively meet that is sensible, this probably gives us massive leverage to go to Brighton and actually get a cheaper deal as well. So I'm not going to rule out anything. I've still said that Belieber could be a player we go for. If Manchester United get deals in principle, if we say, for example, if we sign Ederson, and that looks like it might be one of the most likely ones, and then we look like we're going to sign maybe Tonali, maybe we get that deal almost agreed and almost like negotiate a price that feels sensible. Does that give us leverage to go and get Anderson? That we can still pivot and go and get Anderson. We can still get Belieber as well, and we could we could definitely go for Belieber, Anderson, and Edison. I mean, we don't have to definitely get Edison either. Speak on the poll. The poll's clear. Everyone can see the poll. I was talking about the poll during as it was going. To be honest, it's not my opinion, but I don't think that Tonali is a better football player than Belieber. So I'm completely open minded on this. I think Belieber would be a good signing, and I said this like a week ago when it wasn't particularly exciting for people. I think Belieber got a lot of criticism this season for things maybe beyond his control, in which I think Belieber is definitely more disciplined. He's playing more defensive, and sometimes that makes the numbers look not as exciting to people because he's not running with the ball as much as he was last year. But winning his duels, he's been exceptional, like really good as well. Yeah, it feels a bit weird, Daz, doesn't it? So I kind of want Spurs to get relegated and West Ham to get relegated because for different reasons. But no, I've said like categorically that I don't think Tonali is a better football player than Belieber, and the fact that Man United look like they're close to getting Tonali does not mean they definitely get Tonali. But what it does mean is that if Manchester United are capable of getting deals done almost in principle at this point in time, because the transfer window doesn't open until the 15th of June, so we've still got another 3 weeks to go. And if the transfer window is not open, we can get these deals done in principle now and get these deals almost agreed. It does mean we can go to Brighton and say, look, we can buy Tonali for whatever it is, like 80 million. We can get Edison done for 35 million. And we're looking at Matheus Fernandes. Like, if you give us a sensible price on Belieber, we can talk. Otherwise, I think Belieber stays at Brighton. And to be honest, Brighton do not want that. Brighton want to sell him as well. So I think we're putting, we could potentially and that we could potentially put 5 deals in place and pick 3 of them. We could get deals done ready. And this is something that the Athletic said about 2 days ago, 3 days ago. I was talking about this and saying we could be looking at getting multiple deals in place. It doesn't mean we have to do any of these deals. Like Daz is saying, we could put a deal to do a Tonali, Belieber, Alex Scott, Edison. I'm just trying to think. There's a few, and we could have all these deals in principle ready to go. and then we could just pick which ones we want to do as well. So I'm not saying that we should definitely get Belieber, we should definitely get Tonali, we should definitely get um, other deals done, but United might actually have. It does feel a bit like so. If Belieber excels at United, he will down tools us when Real Madrid's. Um, I don't know if that's the case. I think Belieber's had his minutes managed because of injury. So again, it's a bit of an unknown quantity at the moment. I'm being open minded with Belieber, but what I'm saying is we could see 5 deals agreed in principle, and then just choose which three we want. So welcome United Strand to the chat as well. Good to see you. Yeah, one of the things would say is that it's no different between walking around like a car dealership, finding out the prices, and then just going home and making the decision. I think if United find out exactly how much money tonight is going to cost, they find out exactly how much money Believer is going to cost. They maybe find out that Anderson is too expensive. It's a bit like me walking past the Ferrari dealership when I lived in Loughborough, realizing it's too expensive. You then have to go to more sensible prices and then find out what you can afford. I think United can afford Anderson, but maybe for some reason but maybe if Anderson's keen to stay at Forest, who knows? There's a lot of unknown there as well. I think secretly, I think Anderson wants to leave, but he just wants to be well paid as well. So yeah, tricky. Now, United Strand, if you're new to the channel, welcome to the community as well. Thanks for getting involved. Please let me know your thoughts. The stream is going to end fairly soon as well because it's getting. I'm gonna have to go and get some food and then prepare for quite a lot of streams this afternoon as well. Yeah, the thing is that Tonali probably is cheaper than we think. To Daz, it might be a bit cheaper than we think, and you have a feeling that you think we're going to get Belieber, Fernandez, and Edison. I still think with Tonali, there is question marks over the gambling situation. And I think even though people will go, oh, but it's they are things that I think we need to think about. And if we're thinking about it, I'm sure Man United are considering this because it is a big factor. If you have a player that's banned for gambling, it's obviously a big issue. And it's not like he stopped when it came to England. He did put a lot of bets on since joining Newcastle as well. So yeah, it's not that he suddenly stopped, and he hasn't actually definitely stopped doing this. So it is a concern, but I think it's definitely a good way of Man United negotiating as well. Like definitely a good way of like. Can you remember a year ago where Man United do nothing until near the end of the window, then try and get Belieber? If you want to get Belieber, isn't the best way to get Belieber to actually go right, agree a deal with lots of other people, and then um, yeah, I think Yali. I think some people were saying that apparently he did a lot at Newcastle as well. I'm not saying I categorically know that, but that's what I'd heard. That some people were saying that he had carried on betting at Newcastle. I mean, hopefully that's not the case. But yeah, this is where we're going with this one and saying that it is a factor, Yali. Like, who would you want to sign? I think with United, I think that there could also be. Would I take a new Ferrari or a Maserati? I probably would say that I wouldn't take an Alfa Romeo because I think they have a lot of electrical problems. So I think some things can look nice and not be effective as really. So no, I'm not saying Tonali is still betting, but some people were posting comments in the chat a couple of days ago saying they think that is the case, but I don't know. I don't know. No, I would say for me that I would rather go for, say, if tonight's our top midfield signing, say you're confused at our strategy and shape unless our shape changes next season. So United Strand, I think you might be on the same lines as I think it was who was it earlier that said that? Tony said that as well. I think that this is something that if if Man United are thinking of changing the way they play, then I think as football fans, if you look at the team playing this season and you drop the new signings into the team, I think naturally what we do is we take out Casemiro and go right, who's going to replace Casemiro? And you drop Tonali in and think actually Tonali's not the same as Casemiro. You drop Belieber in and think actually Belieber's not the same as Casemiro. and it doesn't make as much sense. If you consider that Man United go right, forget what you know about midfield for the last couple of years at United. I mean, the way that Eric Ten Hag set up his team, the way that Ruben Amorim set up his team, and the way that Fletcher and Carrick changed that as well, it might change again. So if we get these deals done quite quickly, we might have a completely different way of playing. So it might be that Belieber hasn't had a great season. He hasn't had a great season. Now, now fair play, Yali. I think you're probably right, but I'm just saying people had said that. I think Belieber's had a. I think if you look at the defensive work, Belieber's done well defensively, but he hasn't been doing too much. So we will love Tonali if he comes here. Well, based on the comments of the last couple of days, it seems that Man United fans are almost impossible to please. Because if I did a stream saying Man United have signed Tonali, then because based on the comments today, half the people would be excited, half the people would be disappointed. And if I did the reverse stream and said we signed Believer, it'd be the opposite way around. The people that were happy about Tonali would be disappointed. So again, it's good to get your opinions out there. Obviously, I'm not Tonali FC or Belieber FC either. I don't really care, but I don't think any of these football players are shite, and I don't think any of these football players are going to suddenly be the best players you could possibly ever sign. They're all going. I think they're going to be effective signings as well. As John says, people forget Belieber's form could be due to having his head turned by United interest as well. Um, yeah, no, I'm not saying that. Uh, the thing is that people have different opinions, don't they? And say top five midfield in the Premier League. I think Tonali is good, but I will agree with this comment and say I think Bruno Guimaraes is more important to Newcastle than Tonali. But in terms of what Man United want to do over the next 5 years, Tonali might be a more sensible signing. So, and if we got if we got Tonali, Belieber, and Ederson, I would be up. Maybe this is one way of like annoying and appeasing everybody at the same time. Maybe Man United get Belieber and get and get Tonali. And what do you think then? Um, now, Bruno Guimaraes is a different sort of midfielder, but Bruno Guimaraes has the injury issues as well. Um, the thing is, though, I think Tonali would be a good signing for Man United, and I think Belieber would be a good signing for Man United, and I think Ederson would work out okay. So I don't see there being, I don't really see a negative about these signings. That the fact we can be looking at, the fact we can say that Anderson is the best midfield signing, I think most of us think we could get, and then we look at too many as going to be the second best midfielder. I don't think that most of the time you don't always get your top targets. I don't really see a problem with this one overall. You know, also, I'm not sure if there'll be a stream in the next few hours, but there will be a stream at 2 p.m. UK time. Mr. G Wolf and Yarly will be talking about the build up to the match, and there will be a full watch along on the channel as well. So if you enjoy watch alongs, um, if you enjoy watch alongs, yeah, if you need a player from a rubbish team, then at least get the best player from Newcastle. I think Bruno Guimaraes is a bit older though, isn't he? And the problem with Bruno Guimaraes is he has injury issues. I think that's probably the biggest thing. But no, I suppose like with this one, who's the best player in Newcastle? Like Lewis Hall might be one of the better players we could sign. I don't mind getting Lewis Hall out of Newcastle and then getting Anderson from Forest. That would suit me. But no, I think if you like watch-alongs, there will be one at 2 p.m. If you want to get involved in a calling show after the match, 6 p.m. I'll be posting the link in the comments for people to come on with myself and G to kind of discuss the match as well. So there will be a show at 6 p.m. and a show covering the whole match. So I think from we're going to take a bit of a break now for a few hours, but then there will be pretty much it's going to be a hot day today, but there's going to be pretty much coverage. So I think Geoff and Helgi will take you through the watch along, but they will be able to also keep you up to date on everything that's going to happen regarding relegation fight and essentially Fernandez versus Van der Ven in terms of transfer targets that we read about tomorrow probably. I would say Tonali deal scuppers any chance of a whole deal. So maybe, but then we have seen Newcastle sell a few players last season. It's not. I think with this one, Newcastle have said that if a player wants to leave Newcastle, he's allowed to go. So if Tonali wants to leave Newcastle, he's going to be going. If Lewis Hall wants to leave Newcastle, he would also go. Gordon is going to be off as well. So yeah, Newcastle might be selling a few players. Who knows? So Yari said I'm putting you on the book apart from Jake. Now, what do you think, Yari? You a fan of Tonali? I think overall people were quite happy with the deal to start with. Bundesliga says do a poll, Tonali or Hall. I think Tonali's getting a bit of a hammering in the chat today. I think it's going to be. I'll do like a 2 minute poll then because you asked nicely. So I'll do a very quick one. Best signing Anderson only. Yeah. The thing is that Anderson only. I like the idea, but if Anderson doesn't leave clubs, it's a tough one, isn't it? Tonight he's getting it today, isn't he? But right, so best signing. I'll do like a very very quick poll. So please vote rapidly if you want to. It seems funny, isn't it, that if I do a stream talking about a player, expecting some positivity because Man United are doing deals quickly, then it's almost like the opposite reaction. So I'm kind of in the situation where I'm happy that Man United are actually doing deals or trying to get deals done in principle fast because it means that we can operate a lot quicker. So say Tonali's third on your list, Anderson is still ahead of him. Still interesting. I'd have probably put too many as like my number two. I'd have gone Anderson too many, and then after that, for me there's a bit of a drop off, and it's difficult. I think all the signings are planned around. I think that I think a lot of Man United signings are genuinely planned. It could be that Sonali's like moved up the list because of his availability. If we're going to get Anderson and Fernandez, I can see why people want a believer type overall. Yeah, no, I think gets and matters make that. I sometimes look at the overall strategy and think that Edison, Fernandez, I think believers like yeah, there's not a bad option, is there? Like those four players you mentioned, your message there, you could probably pick any three of them, and I think for me it's a sensible move. I think Matheus Fernandez looks actually like one of the best available players as well. So yeah, maybe I should put both. So both. Now, thing is that you can't please everybody, but when you get three midfield players, at some point in the future, we're going to have, hopefully in the near future, we're going to have a poll where it's like, is the midfield rebuild looking good? Like, if it's like going to be Tonali plus Fernandez plus Edison, or if it's going to be Belieber plus I don't know who else, Angela Stiller plus Edison, we could have a conversation then. It's kind of difficult, isn't it, at this point in time? And Genghis says, we probably do have a plan more than you think. Don't forget that the people in charge at the moment, in terms of getting them all in place, this is only the second summer transfer window they've had with actually some time to prepare. So the last year's was quite good. January's obviously didn't happen. This one has to be a lot better planned. So I think it is going to be a lot better planned. I mean, the idea next season's got to be to compete for the league as well, isn't it? Like if we need to close the gap with Arsenal. Okay, so let's go to the poll. I did say it's going to be quite a quick one. Wow, not good news for Tonali. Not good news. So maybe Tonali will be our second signing, but people will. I think this is going to be an interesting one, isn't it? I'm really looking forward to next season because, yeah, next season. I've got a good memory as well as Yarley. I'm not putting people in the book, but I will remember what people said about certain players. I do remember what people said about Dorgu, and I do remember what people said about Aiden Heaven. I got a lot of stick for saying Aiden Heaven was going to be put into the first team relatively soon. People were going, "What the hell are we doing signing an academy player? That's not going to help us in the near future." But it is. I think Tonali, Baliba, Fernandez, even like Hayden Hackney, I've said that as well. Edison, I think they're all actually going to be good signings for Man United, and we have no idea how we're going to play. Maybe we're going to sign four midfielders and play three of them in each match. Who knows? But guys, we're going to be heading off now. Thank you for watching the stream. Appreciate everybody getting involved in the chat. Please subscribe if you are new to the channel as well as we push on to try and get to 1K. And we will be live 2 p.m. this afternoon, build up for the match, 6 p.m. calling show. I think that might be it. What's the expected fee? I think the rumours were that Newcastle wanted about 80. So we'd have to see. Man United are trying to negotiate very hard for deals to try and push the prices down, but we'll have to see how they do. And thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.